Hey, it's me, your favourite Z-list YouTuber, making videos that no one in their right mind would actually fucking watch. Last episode I took a look at Max Payne. It was an alright game, it had some flaws, but it was mostly good. Mostly. Like its predecessor, Max Payne 2 came out with boatloads of praise, it won awards, and was liked by fans and critics alike. Just a few pointers before we start though. This is going to be my first time playing this game from start to finish, so there's going to be no bias. I did plan on playing the PS2 version of this game, but I literally couldn't find the copy for it for this video. So, we have the Xbox version. And that might have been the better choice, as you will soon see. One more thing, I want to apologise for the poor quality footage. I only had composite cables, and those don't put out the best quality footage. Also, there was this white line on the top of the screen, which no matter what I tried, it stayed there, so I'm going to have to crop it out when necessary. But with that out of the way, let's get into it. So the game starts and already you realise there's been some drastic changes. After the success of the first game, Remedy sold the Max Payne rights to Rockstar. They gave them a bigger budget and the rights to make the sequel. This means they were able to drop the terrible photo textures from the first game in favour of character models created from the ground up. And they look really good for this time and still look really nice today. No more getting any old Joe off the street. James McAfee once again reprises his role as Max, and he does a pretty good job.
Right.
His delivery has a little bit more oomph than the first game. In fact, the whole voice cast does a pretty good job all round. Anyway, Max wakes up in a hospital after an accident. He alludes to a crime that he committed they must run from. All the while he gets flashbacks to what happened in the past, and what we will soon experience for ourselves.
I had to run. Get as far away from it as possible.
We have a run-in with a hitman trying to take us out. This is where we get a first look at the controls. This is also time for me to talk about this controller. On the PS2, the diving and bullet time was assigned to the L1 and R1 triggers. You could hit both at a moment's notice, and once you got it down, it was just instinct. In short, a good setup. But with the Xbox's inherent lack of a second set of triggers, they had to improvise. Now the left trigger is dive, and the B button is bullet time. Coming off the heels of the first game, this took some time getting used to, but I didn't mind it later though. I still prefer the PS2 layout. Anyway, we run into Jim Bravura from the first game. He interrogates Max, accusing him of murder. He gets shot by another assassin. While Max tries to escape, the assassin accidentally shoots a propane canister, which was just laying around in the hallway for some reason. It rolls into the elevator shaft next to Max and blows up, causing it to roll down to the morgue, where Max finds the body of someone called Winterson.
I had tried to run from it, edited out. Winterson was dead. I was a murderer.
Then we flash back even further to last night. After the events of the first game, Warden kept his promise, and made Max out to be a hero. Max left the DEA and rejoined the NYPD. One night Max took a call for a disturbance at a place owned by Vladimir Lem. After showing up at the scene, Max hears some gunshots, and so it begins. Like I said earlier, they haven't changed the fundamentals of the game, but they've made some quality of life improvements. For one, they've reduced the sensitivity of the reticle when in scope mode. Plus, the reticle doesn't shake as much as in the first game. In the first game, it was so bad that you'd think Max had fucking Tourette's or something. When you dive, you can stay on the floor and keep firing until you need to reload, which is really helpful when taking out large groups of enemies. There's also a spin move which you can do while reloading. I didn't really have much of a use for it. And the greatest improvement of all, the dream sequences don't suck. They're a lot more linear than in the first game. I'll tell you, I was legitimately dreading this dream sequence because of the first game, but my dread soon subsided when I realised it was just a linear path. Plus, the dream sequences are a lot more creative than in the first game as well. Anyway, after coming across a cleaner who claims to be working for the place, things turn south and the cleaner's cover is blown. Annie Finn, one of the employees, is held hostage. Max warns Annie's captors to release her, but they execute her instead.
Like all the bad things in my life, it started with the death of a woman. I couldn't save her.
After taking out some more cleaners, we run into Rona Sachs once again, who if you remember was killed in the first game.
If you think nothing can get to you, you're lying to yourself. At best, you're temporarily dead. A lightning bolt can reanimate you without a warning.
After a close call with death, we meet Detective Winterson, the same Detective Winterson from earlier. Back at the station, Max gets penalised for letting Annie die. Mona is the main suspect in Winterson's case, so Max lies.
Maybe it was because she was alive when everyone else kept dying on me. Survivor's guilt washed away.
In the next level, Max goes to find Vlad to break the bad news. Vlad bought the old Ragnarok club from the first game and is converting it into a trendy club. Max arrives to find Vlad in the middle of a gang war with Vinny Gorniti, also from the first game. You get to go through this building twice in the entire game, and the second time you go through it's further along in construction, which is quite a nice touch. One of my favourite things about the Max Payne franchise is the environmental design and atmosphere, which I feel I didn't touch on in my first video, so I'm going to talk about it here. The first game had a lot of rundown and abandoned buildings, like a sleazy motel or a rundown nightclub, which contrasted with the cleaner look of the later levels, like the Asgard building and the Acer Corporation building. But in the sequel there's a lot more variety, not just in the level environment, but what you can do in that environment as well. Case in point, Chapter 2, Prologue. I'm going to skip ahead in the story a bit. Basically, Mona is arrested and Max gets his guns taken away and is forced to work a desk job. He plans to find Mona and talk to her, then more cleaners will break in and shoot up the place. You're given free run of the entire police station. You can get this level done really quickly if you know what you're doing. But what makes this level special is what you can do in between. For the most part there's no combat, but you can explore the entire area. There's some rooms that don't even have any significance, like this briefing room in the main reception, or this cozy rec room with some NPCs you can interact with.
Hey, we're watching that!
They could have just made these locked rooms that couldn't be opened, but they didn't, and that's what I like about it. It makes this level feel like a real place.
I want to report a crime.
You've come to the right place.
Okay, so my boyfriend, the loser jerk, sits on his ass all day and keeps playing these stupid video games. You know, stupid Dick Justice and stuff. Doesn't go to work, gives me no thought.
Unfortunately, being a jerk is not a crime.
No, I wasn't finished. I'm getting to it. So I got real sick of it and threw the television out of the window. It was mine. I can do whatever I want with it, right?
As long as no one got hurt.
That's what I told him. He's my ex, really. But now the sicko's threatening to kill me. That's a crime, right? He's been playing those video games an awful lot. Makes him a very good shooter. Holding that controller's like holding a gun, they say in the news. You gotta help me. I fear for my life.
Okay, miss. Sit down for a moment and we'll take your name and address and see what we can do about it.
Okay.
Did you hear that? Guns don't kill people. Video games kill people. Jesus. Welcome to New York City.
In fact, while I was on my break, I booted up this level and just walked around, talking to NPCs and interacting with objects for like 40 minutes. Which is not immensely sad. Honestly, it's amazing to me that they put so much effort into something most people won't notice or care about. And there's so many other examples of this, I could probably go on for another 5 minutes, so I better wrap this up quick. But before I move on to my next point, I want to bring up one more example. The Address Unknown Funhouse. Based on the Cult 90s show of the same name, which you can find playing on TVs throughout the game.
Making you mad. We're forced to operate aggressively.
The first time you go through, there's no combat. Max just monologues to himself.
Your past has a way of sneaking up on you. You'll hear broken echoes of it everywhere, like a bad replay. You get mad at everybody for reminding you about it, even if it's all in your head. When entertainment turns to a surreal reflection of your life, you're a lucky man if you can laugh at the joke. Luck and I weren't on speaking terms. Or maybe the place was just too lame to be funny.
The second time cleaners break in and you go around backstage, using the attractions to take them out. Yet another fun switch up of the gameplay. And the third time, well, I'll get into that when we get into story spoilers. But this is great because the first time you go through, you feel like you're being watched the entire time. And the second time you go through, you see where you were watched from. It's really good. One thing I failed to mention in my first video, and yes, another reason why my first video is fucking shit, was that I didn't talk about the soundtrack, so I'm going to talk about both soundtracks here. The first game had a lot more of an action soundtrack with a lot more loud drum and guitar, with some keyboards sprinkled in. There's also unsettling pieces for the dream sequences. There's a lot of droning noises like the distorted sounds of a bell, or the muffled sounds of screaming. And it truly makes the hairs on the back of my head stand up. Max Payne 2 suddenly goes for a different vibe, a lot more mysterious, a lot more slower too. I think it fits well with the love story between Mona and Max. Also, speaking of killing, the game has quite the arsenal. Some fan favourites return like the sawed-off and pump-action shotguns, with the pump-action shotgun getting a design revision, the igram. Ressa and Desert Eagle, which you can now dual wield, with some new additions like the Striker, which is just another shotgun. Kalashnikov, MP5, and some others that they removed like the M79 grenade launcher, which I think was for the best. I've already proved how overpowered that thing is in the hands of an AI. Okay, with that out of the way, I'm going to get into spoiler and final boss spoiling territory. So if you don't want to see that, then skip here. So Max visits Alfred Woden, also from the first game, and he explains that Vlad was behind the cleaner killings. Max gives a visit to Vlad's club, where he finds out that Winterson was Vlad's mistress. He was the alleged boyfriend that called her at work.
Detective Winterson's phone.
Give me that.
Your boyfriend.
A mob war ensues with Vinny's mobsters and Vlad's men. After finding Vinny stuck in a Captain Baseball Bat costume rigged to blow with a bomb, an escort mission ensues, and it's not the worst thing I've ever played in my life. So after we escape, we head back to the funhouse where Vlad is waiting. The bomb is set off and Mona runs in to save Max through the fire and flames. After being rescued, Max says that Vlad will be heading to Woden's manor. Some of Woden's men have betrayed him. A firefight ensues and Max and Mona work together to take out everyone. Vlad shoots Mona in the back, leading to the standoff with Vlad. The final fight with Vlad is pretty anticlimactic. There's 3 phases: just shoot at the yellow bars, then shoot Vlad. Vlad goes crashing down to the bottom floor as the building burns. Mona dies and cue credits. But wait, we aren't quite done yet, because there is in fact an alternate ending. That's right, if you beat the game on the Dead on Arrival difficulty, Mona takes the bullet in the back and survives. Honestly, this ending takes away from Mona getting shot into the first place and what that meant to the story. Because that means there's no consequences for Max. Despite what happens, these events shaped Max into a new person, able to put what happened in the past behind him. But does any of that make Max Payne 2 a bad game? No. The only bad things I can really say about it is the final fight and the length. It only took me a little under 7 hours to beat. And so, Max Payne 2, the Fall of Max Payne, gets 8 out of 10. While I'm willing to admit this is the better game, I still have a soft spot for the original. I like them both for entirely different reasons, but yeah, I'm willing to admit that the second one is the better game. But despite the good reception from critics, the game sadly didn't sell that well. Around half as much as the first game. The series went dead for nearly a decade. Then it returned. Which is what I'm going to be talking about next time, so join me when we cover Max Payne 3. The past is a gaping hole. You try to run from it, but it ends up catching up with you anyway. Your only chance is to face it, but it's like staring into the void, ready to swallow you whole.